In 1972, you decided to go after the Washington State job. You guys were doing great at Maryland. Lefty was making them the UCLA of the East. At that time, only one team was allowed to go to the NCAA tournament, and UCLA was just in the midst of going every year. In addition, what a lot of people don't know is that the Pac-8 did not allow any of their other teams to go to the NIT. Why'd you want to go after a job like that?
Well, I don't know that it would be an accurate portrayal to say that I went after the job. They kind of came after me, but it was a time when there were almost no black coaches at a predominantly a white school in America at that time. And then in the course of about a 12-month period, I went to Washington State. John Thompson went to Georgetown. Fred Snowden went to Arizona. And the dike, there started to be some leaks in the dike, and blacks were getting an opportunity.
Prior to that, you had Will Robinson at
Illinois State also. So what happened was, it wasn't like I had a lot of choices. I interviewed for the Cincinnati job, and I did, and Gail Catlett got that. And I interviewed for the Washington State job, and I got that. And really, when you stop and think about it, Washington State probably should have been the last place in the Pac-8, because there were only 8 schools in the league. Then the two Arizonas weren't part of the Pac-10, what subsequently became the Pac-10. So here's this school 80 miles approximately south of Spokane, Washington, in a rural farming community right near the state line of Idaho. And when you look at UCLA and Southern Cal and Stanford and Washington, Oregon State, and those schools, you think this would be the last place that would hire an all-black coach. But Ray Nagel, who was the AD, then hired me, and it was interesting. I asked him shortly after I got the job, why did he hire me? And he said, because everybody I talked to, I'd ask him this question: who's the absolute best recruiter in your mind in college basketball? And he said, 99% of the time your name came up. And he said, I didn't feel that we needed someone who was a great coach. And I don't want you to take this the wrong way, George. I'm not demeaning your ability to coach the game. He said, but we could have hired the best coach in the country, and I don't know if it would have made that much difference. We needed someone who could get us players, and we believe that you can do that. So, Jack, I took the job for $22,500, right, as $22,500, and I actually thought I hit the lottery. I was making about 17 at Maryland. And so I remembered when I got back up to the airport in Spokane, I called my wife. I said, hey, they gave me the job. They won't announce it until you come out and see the campus, make sure that you feel comfortable here. And she said, well, how much are they going to pay you? And I said, $22,500. And she had a big whoop. And so we thought we had hit the lottery. Hell, you couldn't hire an assistant for $22,500 now. But I never took the job for money, Jack. I've never taken a job in my life based on money. Every job I've ever taken, I took it based on opportunity. I never, ever once discussed money in any interview that I had. For example, when I went from Washington State to Iowa, I interviewed for probably about 5 hours with Bump Elliott. And then he finally said, okay, you're the guy we want. He says, you got any other questions? And I said, no. He says, oh, you got to have at least one more. I said, no, I don't have any more. And he says, no, you got to have one more. And I said, well, what would it be? He says, you've never asked what you're going to get for the job. I said, Ray, I'm not taking the job based on money. I'm taking it based on opportunity. And every job I've ever taken, I based it on opportunity. Did I see an opportunity for success there? And could I achieve some of the things that I wanted to achieve with my life there? And if I felt the answer was yes, I took the job. I can worry about the salary later. I've always been a person, you'll get rewarded on the back end, and that's worked out perfectly for me in my lifetime.
Plus, one thing you always told us was the easiest thing to do in life is make money.
I still believe that. I think the easiest thing in the world to do is to make money. If people are willing to work hard, and be passionate about what they do and have a strategy, I believe you can make money.
And be observant.
Yes, I don't know if
you're always
you'll
saying, if you look at all the things out there, tell me you couldn't have thought billboards,
Yes.
or whatever, you could have thought of that.
I think that you might not become a millionaire, but you'll always be able to sustain yourself and live a rich life. I think it's more important to live a rich life than it is to live a life of material riches.